Hi, everyone. I am Carla Girardi-Lowe. I'm president of Redwood Heights Association, and we're super happy to, one, have the mayor and Captain Bassett here as our guests, but also that all of our neighbors and community members, we had a lot of people register. And so we're very happy that you were able to join us here this evening. As you know, Redwood Heights is a community organization. We're a nonprofit. We're a tiny group of volunteers, and all of these things are always made possible by the community support via donations, volunteer time, and so we really appreciate you being here and getting involved with our local community. We are also, if you finish this and you want to get involved, we are always looking for new board members as well. So how this meeting is going to work is we're going to open with Mayor Sheng Thao is going to do an introduction and kind of talk about some of the things that the city of Oakland is currently doing. We are then going to turn it over to Captain Bassett to kind of give his update, and then thank you to everybody for submitting the questions. There were a lot of questions, and obviously, as you can tell, we have a lot of people here, and so we had to make the decision to kind of sift through all the questions, pull questions together, and so we were kind of hoping for a little bit more interaction, but that's going to be super challenging with so many people on the call. So we do have questions, and we're going to click through 10 really important questions out of the gate. And if we have a little bit of extra time, the mayor can, or Captain Bassett can circle back to things we had to, okay, time's up. So anyway, I want to introduce my co-moderator, Kenan Scott, who is the secretary on the Redwood Heights Association board. And he and I are going to do this together. So again, thank you all for participating. Kenan, take it away.
Yeah, thank you, Carla. Give it up for the president of the Redwood Heights Association. I think have we hit a decade yet? I think we're getting close. I think we should really give ourselves a party when we hit a decade of being a part of this amazing group, a small, very mighty. You may not think of all the work that we are doing, but you have interacted hopefully with some of our events like Music in the Park, or most recently Movies in the Park. There's also the plant swap that happens, as well as we'll tell you a little bit about some events that are coming up to round out the year. All of that saying, please check us out, the website or email at info@rhaoakland.org. Great places to find out what we're doing, places where you can help donate time, your input, your understanding of the neighborhood, because we're not a neighborhood association if we don't include all the voices that are available in our neighborhood. And we have one of the most diverse neighborhoods in all of Oakland, and that needs to be celebrated. And so as we look to you all who are here joining us, we are thankful, and we hope to see you again. We meet monthly, first Wednesday of the month, and I'm pretty sure that's still open to the public, right, Carla? Yeah, there we go. So you can always join us. We'll be coming back in person, back to the Redwood Heights Rec Center. Shout outs to Brett and their whole team there, because it's just an incredible place where we are fortunate enough to be able to come together as a board and talk about and really showcase the incredible people we have in our neighborhood. So once again, how this is going to work, we're going to introduce both the mayor and Captain Bassett. I think for purposes of who we have available right now, maybe we'll start with Captain Bassett.
Brandon, let's start with the mayor. Is she ready?
2 minutes, she will be.
There you go.
Okay, maybe we do start. Should we go ahead and start with Captain Bassett? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think that'd be fine.
Okay, let's do that.
Sounds good. So this is our police area captain. So just to make it very clear, we've had these wonderful opportunities to talk with our police area captains before, really get an understanding of what's going on in our neighborhood in terms of our safety and those who are here to support and serve in just that, making sure we feel safe in our neighborhood. So I will do a mini drum roll, ba, 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 and introduce and send it over to Police Area Captain Bassett. The floor is yours.
Oh, we have to unmute him.
Oh, fair enough.
We'll just make him a co-host.
Are you on it?
I'm not very successful. I made him a co-host. Make co-host. There we go. So now you should be able to unmute. There we
Okay,
go.
can you hear me?
Yes, perfect.
All right. Hi. Thanks for being here, everyone. I'm Jake Bassett. I'm the commander for Area 4. I looked over the PowerPoint that the mayor is going to do in just a couple minutes, so I'll try not to do anything that's redundant. I'll just cover some of the crime stats, and then I'll turn it over to the mayor and make sure that everyone gets to ask their questions. So thank you for having me tonight. I'm the commander for Area 4. We have 6 areas. Area 4 goes from 23rd Ave over to High Street, and then from the estuary up into the hills. And then above 580, it includes the area from Redwood Road all the way over to Keller. I think many of you may have met Area 4's Community Resource Officer. That's Aaron Johnson. Over the past few months, he's been pretty much the only CRO assigned to Area 4, but he's been doing a great job helping to coordinate all the community safety efforts. So if you haven't met him, shoot me an email and I'll make sure that we arrange that. And then I hope many of you have also met Officer Bryant Ocampo, my academy mate. He's fantastic. He is now the walking officer assigned to the Laurel Commercial District. And he's also out there Monday through Thursday. And I hope many of you have had a chance to meet him. And if you haven't, introduce yourselves. I'll keep my remarks really brief because it is billed as a Q&A and I want to leave plenty of time for questions. So just really quick about the crime statistics. I pulled the crime statistics for beat 25, which includes 25, we call it X or X-ray, and 25Y or yellow. So the Laurel, Redwood Heights, and Leona Heights, they're all in beat 25 X-ray, as many of the people on these, if there's anyone who doesn't. And that's above Highway 580, and it goes from 35th Ave all the way up Redwood Road. And then the boundary cuts in this kind of strange way right below Merritt College. It doesn't really follow any actual streets. And then beat 25Y goes also above 580, and it goes from Redwood, includes Merritt College, and goes all the way out to Keller. So for all of beat 25, just a few statistics that might orient our later discussion or any questions. Our shootings are down, thankfully, this year, 13%. We had 51 last year compared to 44 year to date this year. However, our robberies are up significantly. They're up 140%, 45 last year compared to 108 this year, year to date. Auto burglaries are also up significantly, 120% from 34 to 75. And commercial burglaries, although they're rare, have attracted quite a bit of media attention and obviously quite a bit of merchant discontent. I would say not disproportionately, but I would say more than some of the other crimes that we've seen. And so just so we're clear, the statistics do track that. It's not just anecdotal. Commercial burglaries are up 100%. We had 8 last year, and we had 16 so far this year. It's been 16 for a few months, so hopefully that spike we saw has subsided. But you know, one thing I always say is that the statistics just can't convey some of the tragedies. You know, for instance, the tragedy of last month's homicide on 38th Ave, where a mother of 2 young children was shot to death by an errant bullet while she was sleeping in her living room. That happened in the middle of September. This case, and I'm happy to take a few questions about it, although some of my comments may have to be limited, is assigned to Sergeant Nicole Allen, who's a fantastic investigator in our homicide section, and she has made significant progress on this investigation. And then finally, before turning it over to the mayor, I'll just mention the Skyline High School shooting, which was the other significant incident over the past couple months that occurred on September 5th. thankfully, no one was injured during that incident. Oakland police did, I think, a phenomenal job in arresting 3 suspects, and they were all charged for various crimes by the district attorney's office. I'm not going to be able to provide much more on that, and so I will refer anyone interested in that to the district attorney's website. That office put out a detailed press release, and I would refer you there. So that concludes my remarks. I know that you're probably looking forward to the mayor's PowerPoint presentation, which has a lot of detail, and I didn't want to overlap too much. But I did put my email in the top of the chat in case there's any questions that we don't get to during this session. And I look forward to your questions. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you so very much, Captain Bassett. I really appreciate your ability to go in depth, give us a lot of information, and I'm sure there will be, we will have questions that are already set up to go a little bit more in depth in those same topics and areas. So I'm happy and thankful that you are open to just sticking around and being ready to answer these questions that come from our community. And so without further ado, we do have the honor of having our esteemed Mayor Sheng Thao, former council member for our district, here tonight. The mayor has presented or created a PowerPoint that we're going to walk through and be led through. And so without any more of me talking, because we'll get all of that later for the Q&A, I'm going to send it over to you, Mayor Thao. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kenan. It's so nice to be back. I just want to say thank you to your president, Carla, for helping set this up. And of course, to yourself too, Kenan. Just as a little reminder, I used to be on the board until Carla graciously kicked me out. Oh, when I won my council seat. But, you know, Redwood Heights, that's where my heart is at. And so thank you all for having me tonight. And if Brandon, if you can pull up the slide for the presentation.
Yes, 1 second, Mayor.
Thank you. So while he's doing that, I also want to say thank you so much to Captain Bassett for not stealing the thunder, but thank you so much for all the work that you have done, not only in this area, but across the city, and for your many, many years of service here in the city of Oakland. And so just a little bit of highlight. You know, I will be going over a few different things. This is hyper focused on public safety in the city of Oakland. You know, I do want to acknowledge that we are seeing a huge increase in property crimes. These property crimes are not like any other property crimes back in the day where maybe people were not carrying guns or what have you. And so if you do see someone breaking into a car or stealing a catalytic converter or whatever have you, if there is a crime in progress, please do not approach the people. Please reach out to OPD. We do know that many of these people, if not all of them, are carrying guns, and many of them are locked and loaded and ready to be to shoot someone. So please do your best to not engage in that. So some of the things that we'll be going over is what is the work that is being done, what has been done, and what is expected on the horizon. And then of course, we'll answer some questions as well. Next slide, please. So this week is Oakland Love Life Week. Oakland has its official motto is Love Life. And so, you know, as it is chosen as our official motto, we want to encourage residents to love, enjoy, and of course, celebrate life in the city of Oakland. We truly believe that in order for us to have a more safer Oakland, you know, we need to meet our neighbors. We need to be gracious to those that we meet on the streets. And so a number of events are happening throughout the week, and Brandon will drop a link in the chat where you can find all the events to participate. Next slide, please. I think that it's incredibly important that we talk about the city's budget. When we were balancing the budget, what we saw was that we walked into the mayoral seat with a $360 million deficit. Many, of course, the main reason being COVID. So in spite of this, we were able to balance a budget with 0 layoffs. It is incredibly important to me that we didn't lay off any of the city workers because, again, we were already, in my opinion, not at par with delivering services to our constituents and businesses in the city of Oakland. And so I did not want to make things worse. And so what we did was we were able to, again, balance that budget with 0 layoffs. And then we continue to fund an increase in police staffing. I was able to move forward with 6 police academies so that we can do ongoing hiring for our police department. As you all may remember, last year we were hemorrhaging around 8 to 9 police officers every single month. And so we'll talk a little bit about that in a little later. But we also continue to fund Macro, which is our mental health response team, and other community safety programming as well. There is a record $209 million investment into acquiring and developing affordable housing. We know that that's one of the crux of what we call public safety as well too. And we're investing $87 million towards the 5-year paving plan. We always talk about the potholes, and we're not going to stop or let up. We're going to continue the 5-year paving plan as we move forward. And more than $106 million in funds to build, repair, and upgrade parks, recreation facilities, libraries, storm drains, and of course, non-road infrastructure as well. Next slide, please. So this is a little, scope of your area where you are now. And this is the 5-year plan in your area, the largest paving effort in Oakland history. Mind you that before Measure KK was passed, Oakland was about 80 years behind on paving work. When I was elected in 2018 on city council, that work started, and we have already done hundreds of miles of updates citywide to our roads. We started off with the main corridors, and then we went to residential, and so that's where we're at right now, is really identifying the residential streets that have a really low number in regards to the vitality of the road. And so Brandon's going to drop a link to that webpage so that if you want to explore it and see where your road is ranked, you can click on it and it'll tell you where your road is ranked. And not just that, but if your road is up for repaving, it'll give you a timeline as well too. And of course, please continue to report potholes to 311. And if you want to follow up on those 311 reports, please go ahead and reach out to your council member or directly to Oak 311. Next slide. Community safety priorities. So I believe that the way that we have to tackle community safety and public safety is through the enforcement, which is response, and then also the prevention and the intervention. We have to be able to chew gum and walk at the same time in order for us to effectively utilize the minimal dollars and resources that we have here at the city of Oakland. And so for enforcement, we've increased the number of police officers and community ambassadors. And I can tell you that there are more officers and ambassadors out on the street today than there have been in the last few years. Mind you, we couldn't even get over the hump of over 700 officers just last year, but I'll talk about it a little bit more. But when I was a council member, we were able to implement the Thao Public Safety Plan, which what we did was actually we gave incentives for officers who left the city to come back. We were seeing, again, 8 to 9 officers leave every month. And so these different lateral initiatives and different incentives really helped with the numbers to increase. Right now, today, we are at 712 officers, and I'm having the chief of police to continuously move forward with the police academy so that we can strengthen the number of police officers on our force. We deploy the California Highway Patrol officers to enforce traffic violations, sideshows, and dangerous driving, and to help with encampment closures. Look, I know just as much as you do that people out there in the city of Oakland are driving like they've lost their minds. And so in order for OPD to really do its job effectively, I was able to work with the governor to really bring in CHP so that they can hyper focus on the traffic violations, sideshows, and dangerous driving, and it actually opened up our OPD officers to do crime fighting. We more so secured $1.2 million to install 300 flock cameras citywide to really track bad actors, even with stolen plates or no plates at all. And I'll speak a little bit more about that a little later so that you can have a better idea of like, why is it that cameras are important? And I must say that getting the flock cameras up and going, it's a strong political issue. And I know that there are a lot of feelings around it. So we'll talk about some of the privacy issues that people may have concerns with a little later as well. We've also dedicated 14 sworn officers to foot patrol and 7 sworn officers to traffic units. If you remember last year and the year before, foot patrol officers were just taken away. And so right when I got back, I'm a true believer in foot patrol officers. And so when I got into office, we actually implemented 7 sworn officers to foot patrol, and we just recently doubled those efforts. So we have 14 sworn officers for foot patrol in our business corridors. And then, of course, we doubled our non-emergency responders macro program to allow for, again, police to solve crime. Many of our 911 calls, 60% of them are actually non-emergency phone calls. And so investing into macro is a huge thing in the sense that we can actually allow for our police officers to do the real crime fighting and solving crime and investigations. We also are working, right when I entered office, I knew that we had to do an audit of Ceasefire. The Ceasefire strategy is essentially just hyper-focus on a small group of people who are pulling triggers, who are creating the havoc and the chaos in the city, and really, hyper-focusing on them, working with the district attorney's office so that we can get those who are creating that trauma off of our streets. When it was at its full capacity point, we saw a huge decrease in homicides. And now we're seeing that homicides are slowing going up, not as much as it was last year. It's a small little break between that. However, we know that when Ceasefire is operating at full capacity, that it actually works. And there is a correlation between those who will pull the trigger and our violent criminals. There is a correlation between them and property crimes as well too. And again, remember, this is a smaller group of people. And so we're auditing that and we are implementing as we see fit. And so we already started some of those implementation measures, as you can see with deploying of the new auto burglary suppression unit, which is focused on ending auto thefts and break-ins. And so we have undercover auto burglary suppression throughout the whole city every week. And you'll start seeing, and maybe you've already seen some of the results of that. We're also working with the state and federal law enforcement agencies to really hold joint operations and arrests as well. Prevention and intervention. We've allocated $1 million to expand Oakland's community safety ambassadors. This is really ensuring that we have people around the area. We know that we don't have enough officers to constantly be in one area, say for instance, one business district area, but we can actually have ambassadors there who are connected to our police officer. And so I am hiring on actually a previous captain of OPD, Ursi Joyner, to join me to really layer these retail resources, whether it's private resources, the city's resources, or other agency resources, and really working with whether it's a bid or just businesses individually to layer these resources so that we can actually see the reduction of property crimes go down in our business corridors and beyond. Because of the investments, we have 24/7 real-time coordinated crime scene response, which will reduce the retaliatory, gang, and group-related violence. And this is a part of our Ceasefire. And I am launching the Mayor's Advisory Council on Human Trafficking to reduce gun violence that disproportionately harms Black and Brown girls in the city of Oakland. And you probably have also heard that we are investing $2.5 million into improving Oakland's 911 system and emergency response times. Look, it's not new news that our 911 system isn't working at capacity. We know this. I've known this for years. And so we are really, my administration is really stepping up to invest the resources into it. And so the $2.5 million, what that will help with is really update our infrastructure, our technology, and really free up some more positions so that we can hire more people to respond to these calls. We also preserve funding for violence interrupters, gender-based violence specialists, and life coaches. Intentional and ongoing collaboration with OUSD to reduce violence in schools, including $3.4 million dedicated to violence interrupters at high school. We know a lot of the drama that happens on our high school campuses, they always come out of those campuses and actually fall onto our streets. And so even though OUSD is its own entity and government entity, we must work together to ensure that we have success when it comes to saving lives. And investing millions of dollars into youth job programs, really keeping our young people busy and have money in their pockets while they're learning a new skill is really key to making sure that we move forward with community safety in a proactive way. Next slide, please. So I want to go over the police staffing timeline. I think this is incredibly important around some context and of history. So in 2008, way before I was on the council or way before I was even at City Hall, the leadership at the time voted to lay off 80 police officers due to the 2008 financial crisis. And what you'll see is that after that action, we were never able to really recover. We were really close to the 800 mark of 800 police officers, but then the layoff of the 80 police officers really hurt us, and it's still hurting us to this day. And so in 2020, OPD sees the major officer attrition due to retirements or, during the exit interviews, many listed internal cultural issues. And then in 2021, when I was a council member, I introduced and passed the Thao Public Safety Plan, which funded new academies and created incentives for officers to stay and work in Oakland. And in February 2023, as mayor, I reestablished the foot patrols and motorcycle traffic details. So you will see the motorcycle cops out there. We're really hyper-focused on areas where there are children walking to schools. And so that's where you'll usually find the motorcycle traffic detail. And in June of 2023, I funded the 6 new police academies over the next 2 years. So that means that every moment of every day that we are running police academies, right? And so we're really excited that the new cohort is going to get us hopefully above 720 officers soon. Next slide, please. This is just a visual of how the safety plan impacted police staffing. We expect that next month's academy to bring us back above the 700 and, like I said, above 720, hopefully closer to 730 officers, the highest since before the pandemic. Next slide. So I talked a little bit about how I'm working with the governor to bring in CHP support for Oakland. And so what this means is that there will be additional support patrolling Oakland streets and enforcing our laws, specifically around traffic. So this is traffic enforcement to ensure that the reckless driving is, that people are being pulled over for it. And of course, CHP will also be supporting with encampment closures and cleanups. Right now, or previously, OPD was really supporting the encampment closures and cleanups. When we do a closure or a cleanup, our officers must be there because, of course, we never know what will happen in regards to those who are unhoused and living in encampments, how they will behave to our city workers. And so OPD is there supporting that effort. But now with CHP here, we're hopeful that we can have a longer relationship with CHP so that we can free up our officers to actually respond to crimes that are happening in the city of Oakland. Next slide, please. All right. So how will flock automated license plate readers make Oakland safer? Well, one, it tracks criminal vehicles citywide via their license plate, make, model, color, and other unique features. So for example, if let's say I was burglarized and I recall that the right hubcap and the front tire was missing, then but it was like a white Honda Civic. We can then go into these videos and pull up all the Honda Civics that has passed through these cameras and identify the vehicle with the missing hubcap. Another feature that is going to allow for our officers to actually provide stronger policing is the fact that Piedmont actually utilizes these license plate reader cameras, so as San Leandro and Berkeley just passed it. And so what that means is we can tap into each other's systems and work interagency in an interagency way where we can be more effective. And not just that, but really it'll keep residents who are walking and for pedestrians safer, and it'll be safer for our officers as well, so that we can actually send our officers to apprehend the suspect in a more detailed way where we can have more control. It also, when we talk about the privacy protections around this, I know that many have privacy concerns. And so this is just for the purpose of these violent crimes. After 30 days, we've worked with the Privacy Commission, and they agree that after 30 days, we will erase all of the data if it is not being utilized for crime fighting purposes. And so this will protect undocumented immigrants. This will, we will not share any data around women seeking abortion. Data will not be shared for the purpose of immigration enforcement or any of that, so that we are just hyper-focused on the violent crimes and criminals. Next slide, please. All right, increasing police presence to deter crime. We've reinstated Oakland's walking police patrols in commercial corridors years after they were cut, as I talked about earlier, and brought back Oakland's traffic enforcement unit to ensure traffic laws are enforced. But again, CHP is also helping us with this as well too. We recently doubled the number of officers patrolling our commercial corridors to provide more support in partnership with businesses and shoppers. And these, and you please, if you're in the commercial corridors or if you're a business owner, please let us know if these officers are not coming out of their car to introduce themselves. They are to do that in commercial corridors. Of course, let's set the standard correctly. Sometimes they'll get a call, and again, we are not at the number of officers that I feel we need, and so sometimes they might be taken away from that area to support other investigations. However, this is why it's important to have ambassadors working directly with our officers. Scaling up the macro program to support dispatch calls. Macro deploys civilian responders to non-criminal 911 calls, such as homelessness or mental health episodes. We doubled the investment into the macro program to scale up its services and support for residences and businesses. And so what we're seeing is that there's an increase, we increased Macro's ability to take dispatch calls from 2% of all calls for service to 58%. What this actually does is this actually helps ease the burden of OPD, right? OPD are then able to go, our officers are then able to go out and really serve the community. And of course, Brandon will drop the information on Macro so that you can have it. If you see someone who's distressed or needing some service, please do call the non-emergency line or the Macro line. Next slide, please. So earlier I talked about the Ceasefire program. I want to explain a little bit about what it is and what it does. As you can see here on this chart, about 2006, we were really high in regards to the number of homicides in the city of Oakland. And then we see a huge drop in 2010 and an even larger drop in 2014. Well, 2012 is when we actually brought on consultants to begin the implementation of Ceasefire. And from 2012 to 2014, at the height of the program, we saw that homicides dropped exponentially. And a lot of this, there is a correlation with property crimes too. We also saw that property crimes drop during this time in 2014. And of course, the pandemic hit and we were not able to implement the tools that are needed for Ceasefire. So we saw homicides jump up really high. But what I can tell you is that moving forward, once we are done implementing the full process of Ceasefire, and we're already seeing the results of this a little bit right now in the last month, that we've made some changes with OPD. And so what you'll see is there'll be a drop in homicides next year, and then you'll also see that property crimes will also drop as well too. Right at the beginning of getting inaugurated and coming into office, that was something that I really fought for, was investing more money into an audit for Ceasefire program. So the auto burglary suppression unit. Look, I am sick and tired of people breaking into my car windows when I have nothing in my car, and I'm pretty sure you are too. It's frustrating. It costs too much to continue to pay $300 a window, and it is, infuriating. And so what I did was I directed to be honest with you, I have a detail, right, who is supposed to protect me, and I relieved them. I said, no, this is no longer needed. Like, you need to get on the streets to go and really do the auto burglary suppression. And so they're undercover and they're doing the auto burglary suppression throughout the city. every single week. And so this will, this is about the quality of life concerns that we have through our merchant corridors. We want you as residents to come out to shop and feel safe and not have to worry about your car being broken into. And so it's in its first 2 weeks, and 10 individuals were already arrested thanks to this operation. And these arrests our officers are actually videotaping the crime take place. And so we're hopeful that we can get some charges from the district attorney's office on this. I also want to state that of course, tomorrow is my State of the City, and I'll give you information that I'm supposed to announce tomorrow, but the information is that we're going to be starting our 5 to 5 program, meaning downtown, we will actually, allow for parking at our city garages for $5, after 5 p.m. so that you can enjoy the nightlife in the city of Oakland and park your car in a more secure space. And so these are going to be our parking garages, city-owned parking garages in the downtown area. Next slide. Operation North Star. Of course, crime fighting is also, working with different agencies. It's interagency. A lot of this crime is fluid, right? We have people who live from San Francisco and come here to Oakland and vice versa. And so we joined forces with our United States Marshal, and we went through with Operation North Star 2, which is a joint operation, again, with OPD and the U.S. Marshal, and it resulted in arrests of 137 individuals, including 31 homicide suspects. And of course, Oakland will continue to collaborate with the U.S. Marshals and other agencies to address crime citywide and to get those who are the most dangerous off of our streets. Next slide, please. I'm a big believer that if we're going to talk about public safety in the moment, that we also have to think about our future. And that means investing in our young people. So there's been an investment of $3.4 million into violence interrupters at risk OUSD high school campuses to really help address school safety and ensure our youth are on the path to success. And so what that looks like are, they call them culture keepers, but really it's to identify those students who are at most risk and really engaging with them to interrupt any possible violence that they may create, whether on school campus or off of school campus. And this is the first ever school-based violence prevention summit. We implemented, and I implemented the first ever school violence prevention summit. And what that means is we brought school leaders, city leaders together to really strategize about how do we improve school safety. Of course, it goes back to, like I said, things that happen on school campus, it will spill out into our streets as well too. And so having teachers understand, exactly how to call in 911 and exactly what information we need so that we can really dispatch our OPD officers when it's needed in an effective way. And so we can get the work done a lot quicker and save lives. We've also invested millions into youth job programming through the Department of Violence Prevention, our Oakland Fund for Children and Youth, Talking Transition, which is the city's first ever largest survey that we had pushed forward, and it was our data fellows, which we hire Oakland young people to actually, we taught them how to collect the data, and we're teaching them how to actually work with the data right now as we're closing out the talking transition, but really paying our young people to train them to get to have a skill, and not just that, but really going out to talk to our community and really figure out the different solutions that we need to have a safer Oakland from a young person's point of view. We are also working in partnership with Town Youth Club via collaboration with the Oakland LGBTQ+ Center. This is the new Town Youth Club, opened in June, and provides programming and support for our LGBTQ+ youth. And so if you can share this information with with your youth or your young people, please do so. It is still very much not super safe out there for LGBTQ+ young folks, and so to have a place of their own means a lot. And so if you can share the information, that will be great. That will be very helpful. Next slide, please. The Mayor's Advisory Council on Human Trafficking. This is going to be a dedicated team of experts that meets, strategizes, and advises my office on best practices in order to tackle human trafficking. There is a crisis in the city of Oakland. It's not talked about a lot, but it has been talked about for decades. You know, Oakland is known to have a high number of women being trafficked here for many, many decades. It's not the best thing to talk about, so it gets swept under the rug. And so 40% of the trafficked women identify as Black women, and we want to do better by them to ensure that we are not only giving out resources for those women who are being trafficked, but really going after the Johns as well too. And this is something that I will be working on on the Mayor's Advisory Council, where we're working with survivors, a lot of the survivors who are trying to tackle this. And so we're really honored to be a part of that. A part of this team as well too will be someone representing the district attorney's office. Of course, none of this matters if we can't get Johns prosecuted. And so we are working closely with the district attorney's office too. Next item. A call to action. So tomorrow, not only is it the state of the city, but during the council meeting, the city council will vote on whether or not to pass the flock camera proposal. Mind you, I've already gone to Governor Newsom to lobby him for the $1.2 million. And he has given that money over to the city after I have worked with him and asked him for that funding. And so now and the Privacy Commission has approved it. It was the quickest legislation that the Privacy Commission was able to move forward on. You know, a lot of this is really working together. You know, I think that one of the talents that I bring to this job is the ability to work with everybody, no matter which group you're with, whether you're with, you know, so working with the Privacy Commission, this was able to pass because we really worked with them along with the chief. Chief Allison really worked hard to have these hard conversations and really push to make sure that this happens. So I want to give kudos to the chief as well too. But the city council is set to vote on this tomorrow. So if you can email your council members, you can email them at council@oaklandca.gov to urge your council member to support this critical item. Or you can speak at the council. You come to City Hall in person tomorrow at 2 p.m. Or you can also call into, I believe, and Brandon will drop the link into the chat. Next item. So I did talk about how tomorrow is my first state of the city. It will be in the council chambers at 2 p.m., 2 to 3 p.m. And would love for you all to join us. You know, if you can't join us in person, you can watch online at KTOP. KTOP Online will provide a live stream of it. And again, Brandon will actually put some information into the chat as well. Next slide. And if you want to stay up to date with my office, you know, I'll be the first to admit that we have, with everything that we've been trying to combat here and really looking under the hood of what's happening inside of City Hall and balancing and fixing certain things, that my office hasn't been really able to communicate all of the different things that we've been working on. And so that is something that we are fixing, and we are trying to get out and more information to the community. But I do take that and know that that has been one of our weaknesses that we are working on. And so if you want to stay up to date with what my office is working on, this is a QR code. Please go ahead and sign up for our newsletter, or you can follow me on social media. All of my social media handles, whether it's Facebook, Twitter, also known as X or what have you, Instagram, is at Mayor Sheng Thao. And so with that being said, I will allow for there to be some questions so that we can answer any questions that you all may have.
All right, Mayor Thao, thank you so much. We really appreciate you being here with us. So appreciate that. So what we did, and the attendees should be aware of this, is that we put the questions out to the community. And so we ended up with 42 different questions that some of the board members, we sorted through, tried to get, you know, categorize them and boil it down to 10 questions that met with everybody's, you know, hopefully addressed the things that were brought up in those questions. So so that's kind of where what we're working with. What we're going to do is, the goal is to make it through all 10 questions, which means Kenan and his timer will be set for 4 minutes. And so between Mayor and Captain Bassett, if we can have speedy answers, we've got a lot of territory to cover. I had also mentioned there's been some questions in the chat. It's some of them may be addressed in the questions that are presented. If they aren't, we will also be downloading the chat, and we will add those to the questions, like the raw questions that we received, and we will be sending those to the mayor's office for a response. So,
and Carla, if I can just add, that my office is really good at answering those questions and getting them back to you.
yes. So, look for an email from me. Anyway, so so Kenan and his timer, let me show the categories that we are working with. And like I said, this was, you guys all move. This is what we are going to be covering based on the questions that were submitted. And some of them were kind of touched upon, but others maybe are diving a little bit deeper. So, Rachel and she. Okay, so our first one's going to be about staffing, which I know you touched on. I'm gonna go. There we go. So crime is on the rise. People are expecting, are experiencing significant delays with response times, 911 availability. There were many scenarios that people presented with what happened to them. So home break-ins, auto-related crimes, and more. And we're going to talk about auto-related crimes in a separate section. So, but one of the questions, and I saw this in the chat as well, New York has about 40 officers, New York and Chicago, 40 officers per 10,000 residents. San Francisco, over 25. Oakland has only about 20. And you had mentioned the 6 academies with 30 cadets, but that's not really going to get us to those numbers to be comparable to other major cities. So it's obvious we still need more police. So maybe you can add just a little bit more color to the long-term, short-term plan to address it. And then what are the incentives? Why would they come here to the city of Oakland to, improve these things? So.
Absolutely. And so I'll start, and then maybe Captain, you can jump in if there's something else you want to add. So, I agree. Like, we need more officers, and the 6 academies, we're running academies take time. And usually what we do is we run 4 academies over 2 years. So that's 2 academies per year. And so pushing in the 3rd academy, we have to adjust a couple of different things, but that's the maximum of academies that we can run in 1 year. And that is actually pushing it. However, like I told Chief Allison, it's, we have to find strong candidates, candidates who have most likely have already gone through some sort of like training, because a lot of times the reason why we don't have 100% graduates is because they maybe can't pass the tests, or or maybe it's the physical, but there are multiple different factors. And so I'm working with the chief, and what we're doing is we're working with Merritt College to really form a pipeline of pre-cadets or trainees so that we can actually bring them on. We're actually seeing a couple of people come from the sheriff's department come over to our police department as well too. So we always welcome laterals. I think it's incredibly important that we look to the people who are in the city of Oakland. These are great paying jobs, and not just that, but we want to have officers who are from here or have ties to the city of Oakland to police. And so we are working very closely to ensure that we have higher success rates in regards to our academies. Again, pushing the 6 academies. So that's every single, like when academy completes, we start a new one immediately. The academies, we're making them a little bit smaller too, just so that we can pay more attention to each of the trainees so that we can have a higher success rate. Because no matter if you fail or if you succeed, if we fill up the academy, it still costs us the same amount of money. And last time I checked, it was about close to $4 million in academy. And so I agree that, there are significant delays in 911. And so this is why we're doing multiple different things, changing the culture of 911, meaning that we're going to treat, under my administration, we're going to treat 911 dispatchers how we treat police officers when they come in. They come in as a cohort, they come in as trainees together. previously we would hire them one by one. And we all know that dispatchers, they have a really hard and grueling job. They're picking up calls where there's, people's worst days. And so we're going to start bringing them in as cohorts so they can really emotionally support each other. And more so than that, we're actually being really intensive about hiring for these positions. If you know someone who would like to be an officer for the city of Oakland, or would like to be a dispatcher, the dispatcher, I know for sure it starts about at 110. The salary is 110 a year, and that is not including all the health benefits. So it's a great paid job. And if you know of anybody who's interested, please have them apply. You can go onto the jobs website for the city of Oakland to apply for the 911 dispatcher. We're also going to actually or invest in the actual technology for 911 response. Our technology right now is really outdated. And so there's a lot of cleaning up that we have to do, and it is going to take some time, but I can promise you that once these things are implemented, that you'll start seeing these wait times actually close a little bit more.
Thank you, Mayor Thao. Just want to make sure, Captain Bassett, do you have anything to add before we jump into the next question?
Yeah, thank you. I'll be really brief because I know we're trying to get through all of them. So, Oakland police, we don't have the least staffing per capita, and we don't have in Oakland the most violent crime per capita. However, when you put those two together, we do have the most violent crime per officer in the United States, and we have for some time. So that's really the challenge we face. The thing I'll say in response to the question of, who would want to come to Oakland, the positive side of it, from my point of view, is that there is a national police shortage. So we're not alone. But the people that we do attract, they're here for the right reasons. Like, they want the challenge of Oakland. They want the challenge of a really diverse city, very democratic, progressive, on the cutting edge of a number of technologies, trying to do more with less, and therefore trying to be as efficient and as effective as possible. And so we just attract a lot of really driven, challenge-oriented and creative people. And I do appreciate the smaller academies because it does allow that focus. I used to run our academy, and I will state without reservation that we have the best academy in the state. And given California has amazing training, we likely have the best academy in the United States. So I'll just put that out there. And I know we're going on to numerous other questions, but anyone's welcome to email me if you have further questions about staffing and some of the academic literature and all that. I'm interested in that, and I'll definitely answer any questions anyone has about it.
Great. Thank you so very much. Okay, Kenan, you're on.
All right. This question actually will dovetail with what you were saying, Mayor Thao. And it's really about the timeliness of getting to reported events. So what you see here is that the people deserve a timely response. People are reporting having watched criminals make their way in and out of crimes without the type of response that they're looking for, and that there's a need for appropriate action, because without these appropriate actions, we're actually sending the wrong message to criminals. So I think this works with what you were saying about updating 911 and really working on that technology. So I'll just throw this question out to both of you. What are the current pursuits in terms of response time and investigation into crimes? And what are the plans to address and improve the needs as stated by Oakland residents?
I think we already talked a little bit about, but, implementing the undercover sting operation, that's key, right? The enforcement piece of it. I mean, look, I have been a victim on multiple fronts. My car window has been broken into, I'll tell you here, 3 times this year. You all probably more than 3. It's very frustrating. I can't imagine a family who is low income or don't have a lot of means or resources having to pay that many times for their car window to be repaired. Number 2, my home was broken into while my son was home. And we were burglarized. They didn't care my son was home. They just continued. And so I understand this very intimately. And we have to, this is why we're taking this as a top priority and really taking this seriously, because there needs to be enforcement on our end as well too. And I want to just take a moment to really thank OPD. I don't know if you all have noticed, but I definitely have noticed that OPD, I'm seeing a lot more officers driving around and really trying to tackle this head on. This is something that I have not seen before in the city of Oakland. So your OPD officers are hard at work day in and day out. I personally check in with them every day to ensure that, that they have the resources they need in regards to our very limited dollars here in the city of Oakland. But I'll let Captain speak a little bit more if he has more to say.
I'll just really briefly, I don't want to say too much in the way of tactics. I don't like doing that, especially on a Zoom that's recorded. But what I will say is that we do have restrictions on our pursuit policy. I believe those are for risk management purposes. We do not take a very high level of risk for property crimes, which could lead to serious injury or death currently. We are exploring revising the policy along various dimensions. So we definitely welcome feedback on that. Definitely make that available to your elected officials. The one thing I will say that the council's been very supportive of, the mayor's been very supportive of, is what we absolutely need in this city is air support. So our Argus, which is our helicopter, is on its very last legs. It's, they have to get parts from auction sites because some of these parts are not readily available and they're frequently down for maintenance. But the council and the mayor have made a big step forward in trying to get a fixed-wing aircraft. So that's more of a longer-term fix, but short-term budgeting for our air support. And so multiple large groups of suspects have been taken into custody recently where we don't endanger the public with a pursuit, but they are being followed by air support. And we're able to take them into custody with a very risk-conscious approach. So I just wanted to say that without saying much more in the way of tactics. We do have strategies that have been effective. We leverage technology as best we can, and the council and the mayor have been very supportive in recent years in making sure that we continue to have that support.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Carla?
Okay, so our next question, the theme really was leadership and accountability, both from, well, all parties, but the mayor's office and policing in particular. So, I think there's the word, I don't want to say lawlessness, but residents, there's a disconnect sometimes. It feels out here, it feels like there's a disconnect between critical city offices. So it could be the mayor's office, to the police, to city council, to the city administrators, and then even the district attorney, which I know is county. But so it just kind of appears that they're working separately and there's not a lot of coordination that's happening, and especially in things like communications. So what is your plan to lead the effort to improve communication and collaboration across the city and get everybody on the same page, connect the departments, and so we can tackle the challenges facing Oakland?
Absolutely. This is actually very accurate, right? When I was on the city council and when I was running for mayor, this was part of the frustration. It's like there's a feeling that the county's doing their own thing, the city and all the departments were not aligned. And when I got in, that was the case, as I saw. But I do pride myself on making sure that we bring different groups of people together. And so we are working really well with the county. I can tell you that we have, we worked with the president of the board of supervisor to really address two main priority areas, that is illegal dumping and homelessness, right? Because the county actually holds the funding for the human services part of it and the mental health services. And so I believe that's a huge leap into the right direction in regards to our relationship with the county. More so with that, the council members in my office, for the most part, this is the first time that I've seen that the council and the mayor's office are working closely together. I actually have a staffer in my office, and all they do is work with the city council to really see what it is that they want to implement in their different districts and what makes sense, what resources we have. your new city administrator, Justin Johnson, he is fabulous. He is out in the community really trying to tackle and see what's happening on the ground so that he could come back and direct and manage the city workforce to implement these different things. And so, Carla, if you would like to invite the city administrator to a next meeting in the future, I'm sure he's more than happy to, so that he can talk about, you know, how he's implementing the management of the different departments. For me, I am working closely with all the department heads and the city administrator. I drop in on their meetings and we have conversations about specific issue areas. For example, we were able to tackle the largest encampment in Northern California. That is the Wood Street encampment. We did it in a humane way where we actually had shelter for all the residents. Only 85% of them took the shelter, but we did it through working in cross-departmental. And this was something that the department heads have stated to me that this is the first time they've done something like that. And of course, definitely, we're going to continue to move forward in that way. We have been in office for 10 months. And so these are some of the systems change that we're setting up so that we can be more successful in our second year, third, and fourth. And so we are really working together. This is, again, the strongest I've ever seen city leadership, whether it be in the mayor's office, the city council, or the city administrator, or departments. And so that is a positive on that front.
Great. Thank you so very much. We appreciate it. Okay, Ken.
So we talked a little bit about the flock cameras. I've seen in the chat a lot of questions, just trying to understand more about how the flock cameras will help us in the event of stolen vehicles. I think there are a lot of questions around what has become a public safety threat, which is the abundance of sideshows, and then these flash mob incidents that are happening. What we're noticing as a community is that there's a balance that has to be found between strict punishments and those that seem too lax. Just wondering, this is the question, what are the short and long-term issues that are plans that are out there to address what is reckless driving and an endangerment in the public right of way?
Yes, absolutely. So when what we saw was that when I was a council member in this area, 35th and 35th and MacArthur really had a lot of sideshows. And so I was able to be the first to implement the bot dots, and we're seeing that that actually helped deter sideshows. However, the Department of Transportation believe that the bot dots could be a little dangerous for bikers if they were wet and bikers go over them. For me, it's about making sure that the quality of life is here in the city of Oakland. And so we're going to continue to implement deterrence, environmental designs to really make sure that sideshows can't actually happen in these, high intensity corridors where we see a lot of the sideshows. I will be the first to tell you that I refuse to send my officers into a mob of 100 people at the sideshows because they definitely have guns. And so it's just not, I'm going to have to keep my officers safe. I want them to be able to go back home. And not just that, but they will be on the sideline. You'll see them monitoring the situation and may get assistance from the sheriff's department or CHP as well too. But the goal is that we have our investigators investigating what sideshows may be taking place, and then really working with CHP and the sheriff to implement deterrence so that sideshows don't even start to begin with. In regards to the fines, this is part of legislation that I believe Councilmember Kolb had to pass in the past to actually be able to increase the fine to just that, $1,000. It's not for the 6 months in jail, but it is for a higher amount. And so the voters have voted yes on that. And so that's what we are able to charge. We also put up the automated speed cameras, meaning, Governor Newsom just passed this legislation, wrote it into law. So in the next few months, we'll be setting up the automated speed cameras. So if you go over the speed limit in any of these high injury network corridors and you're over by, let's say, 11 miles per hour, you will be sent an automatic ticket. Of course, the criticism is, okay, well, what if they just don't even pay it? But this is going to really help, do something about the recklessness in regards to the driving. Of course, I also stated earlier that CHP is actually in the city of Oakland. We have 6 CHP officers. We're requesting for double that amount. And all I would like for them to do is focus on these traffic issues. So that we can alleviate the plate for our police officers to go do the crime fighting. I also want to, of course, the flock cameras are going to be very useful in the sense that we can look at not only their license plate, but again, all of the characteristics of the vehicle so that when we do spot them out, whether we'll have video footage of them committing crimes, and then we can actually work with our team to apprehend the suspects and bring them to justice. And I don't know if Captain, if you want to add anything else to that, but please feel free to.
Mayor, I think you covered most of what I would have added. I'll just add just a couple things. So, one thing to remember is, I know we're focused on Oakland, but Sideshow is a regional problem. It used to be a very localized Oakland problem, and it seems to have been exported to the entire region. It's very big. It includes LA. There's big events, LA to the Bay, and a number of other ones where they're in Sacramento. They're in all the counties of the Bay Area now. We have a regional Sideshow task force that tracks this and where they exchange information. We've developed extremely good real-time information that's very helpful for us to deter Sideshow. When we hear that it's going into our city, we have Sideshow details on the weekends that do a fantastic job of deterring it. The other thing I'll say is that in Oakland, and the Sideshow promoters know this, is when they come to Oakland, we follow up. So if there's a car doing donuts and we're able to identify that vehicle, we will go tow that vehicle and hold it for 30 days. We do the follow-up. And so when we're able to do that level of enforcement, then Oakland is that less enticing compared to our other regional partners, unfortunately for them. I'll just leave it at that. I know that there are other kind of environmental and road design issues that the OCDOT is going to continue to explore. But as far as the enforcement side, I do feel like we've developed very good intelligence. We use our regional partners. We track these promoters, and we've engaged in pretty significant enforcement action that I think has had a pretty significant mitigation effect over time. There's much less Sideshow in Oakland than there was a couple years back, thanks to those efforts. And I think our regional partners are also making some strides, but I wouldn't say as much as Oakland.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you very much. Okay. So there's been several, I've seen some questions in the chat. There were questions in the pre questions about patrols. And so we're not just talking about foot patrols, but we're also talking about just general beat patrols. And not necessarily, it's for both business districts, but as well as neighborhoods. They can't afford to hire off-duty police officers or private security. There was one reference to Home Depot has OPD there. I'm not sure which location, but some of the data, is showing that those, the face and the place makes a difference. And so, and it's really important that, we establish relationships with shop owners, citizens, and then even the people that are maybe tempted to commit a crime. So how do we get the city to commit to more officers on the beat, on the foot patrols, etc.?
Yeah, no, that's a really great question, Carla. We get that question a lot. I want to just, in reality, the criminals know that the officers are there. They'll wait for the officers to get called off and then immediate, do the crime. And so with that being said, we also know that we don't have enough officers for every single area where there's a business. And so this is why we need to really be smart with the resources, the minimal resources we do have, continue to hire officers. But mind you, basically when we hire the new, our new trainees and they pass and then they become officers, they are paired up with a more senior officer for a year before they can actually be on their own. And so with that being said, this is why it's so important for the technology piece. So the flock cameras come into play and really help with this intel, data-driven, support with our OPD officers. Another thing that I've asked and tasked the chief to actually really look at is that it's my understanding that in Santa Monica and in other cities that they're utilizing the non-insight drones to really help support with, responding to crimes a lot faster than, waiting for 911 911 and then dispatching the officers or what have you. And so we're looking at different things and different tools that we can actually layer on top of everything so that we can actually stretch out those resources. This, Captain Ursi Joyner, who's going to be joining my team as just, a person who he's obviously retired, but he will be joining my team just as an advisor. This is something that he is tasked to do, is to work with the retail segment of our city to really figure out how do we actually stack and braid all of these different resources, from public resources to private resources, for BART and AC Transit resources, the sheriff's department, so that we can layer on these different these different solutions so that we can protect our businesses and our shop owners and citizens a lot more, especially in our business corridors. Captain, if you want to add anything to that.
Mayor, I think you covered it. We should probably go on to the next question.
Thank you. That sounds great. And I love how we are really working a through line here that works with what's happening in the chat. So thank you to everyone for keeping the chat very palatable, something that is very positive. Our intents are to get answers and not be accusatory. So I do want to thank those who are keeping the chat respectful. And we are seeing your questions and trying to merge them into the 10 that we have such short time for. So we're going to keep it moving. And this one does work directly with the one I asked earlier, and it does tie into foot patrols. It's about auto-related crimes. I think we all understand that the general PR for our city right now is not as good, and a lot of it has to do with broken glass everywhere, stolen bags and items from people's cars, businesses being ransacked and run through, and goods really being stolen at a very high rate. The question here asks maybe a little bit about, are these isolated incidents? Is this something that is a larger institution that's really putting this together? I don't know how much you really can tell us about the folks behind these crimes, but it would be nice to know, what are the efforts being done? How are we really, once again, looking at short-term and long-term plans to address what is a rolling problem and growing problem?
Captain, why don't you go ahead?
Sure. One thing I do want to highlight, especially since this is being recorded and it may reach a wider audience, is just to highlight one of the warnings that the mayor gave earlier, which is that, you may think, oh, it's a property crime. They're just, bipping a window and then reaching inside and pulling out the items inside the vehicle. However, I just want to caution everyone that might be listening that, many of these suspects are armed and they're ready to do violence to anyone that tries to interrupt them. Last year, we had a homicide in the Grand Lake area that was related to an interrupted auto burglary, where some good Samaritans thought they could follow the suspects, and one of them was fatally wounded. So I just want to caution everyone on that. So that tells us a little bit about the perpetrators, right? They're often organized groups. They're working in teams. They're armed, and they're willing and able to engage in violence if they meet with resistance, whether that be from the citizenry or from the police. When we've run these operations, they've rammed their way through multiple vehicles. I know that the mayor had her own personnel witnessing some of these operations so that she could hear, essentially firsthand exactly how they're run. They're extremely dangerous even for the police. So I definitely caution people about that. She kind of covered the operations that we're running currently, and I do know that they're continuing. So without giving away tactics and strategies, just know that this issue is being addressed, but there is a high level of violence associated with these crimes, which is precisely why we're addressing it. We do believe it's associated with violence, with possession of firearms, and so forth. So that's what I have to say about it, but I'll let the mayor fill in whatever I missed.
No, I think you did a great job at that. And, there is investigation. OPD has done a great job in regards to really tracking down to where, I guess you could say, the mother loads are at in regards to these crimes. And so we are noticing that many of these are going to be group related or gang related as well too. And so again, I can't stress this enough. Please do not try to attempt to stop or intervene if you see a crime happening. Please call 911. We are also going to maybe operationalize a pilot program where you can connect with active police officers in regards to, anything that you see that's a crime that's being committed right in front of you or in real time. But that is something that we are discussing in the background, and we're hopeful that we can promote something of that magnitude in the future.
Great, thank you. I just want to squeeze in one question. I think it's probably on everybody's mind. And so really short answer. Where are we in getting and looking for a new police chief?
Absolutely. And so the closing of the application process just closed on this past Friday. And so I'm hopeful, talking to some of the commissioners, that they will send me a list of their top candidates by the end of this month. And so here in the city of Oakland, for those who may not know, because we have a really strong police commission, it is the duty of the police commission to actually contract with a hiring firm. This hiring firm is to do at least three community meetings throughout the city of Oakland, and then put out a job description for the police chief. Once the job description is closed and the job is closed itself, then the names go to the police commission. The police commission will interview the candidates, and they will recommend to me their at least top three candidates for me to interview myself and choose from. If I do not agree with their choices, then I can send them back and start the process over. But I'm optimistic that they will send me the first list by the end of this month, if not by the beginning of next month.
Great, thank you very much. I did see the job posting. All right, so our next question, community programs. So we're kind of shifting a little bit from what are the things that the city can do to what are the things, that we as a community can do, like what's out there. So, there's no doubt that the root cause is, in Oakland, victimization is social, economic, societal systems that lead to inequities. And so we want to kind of see what's the city's plan to inspire, cultivate, support our youth and our community in ways that, we can improve their lives and basically bring them up and reduce our growing crime rate.
Absolutely. I 100% agree. And so that is why, even though throughout the largest deficit in Oakland's history, I refuse to touch or close down any programming for our Parks and Recs department. These are utilized by our young people who live on the margins the most. And so they need the programming. We want to make sure that they're kept busy and given that programming. More so than that, we are giving jobs to our young people. Part of the Talking Transition that my office hosts, we paid our young people. Oakland is a city of service. What that means is that we are the only city in the state of California to actually have a state Job Corps program, our Climate Corps program, and not just that, AmeriCorps program. And so all of those programming actually pay our young people to actually do the work in those specific areas. For example, we are able to onboard, some of these young people to actually take on public works jobs. We're paying them exactly what they would be paid if they were working for the city through these grants that I was able to receive from the governor. And with that being said, after they do their 90 hours of work, they can pipeline right into those vacancies that we know we have here in the city of Oakland. And so what does that do? That actually gives jobs to our local economy, that gives jobs to our local residents. We're pumping money into our local economy and getting it right back. And so these are some of the different things that we're doing. In Deep East Oakland, we are committed to a 40 by 40 block, which have been underserved and divested in for many, many decades. And in this, we are working with Blue Meridian, a foundation who is giving us $50 million if we can actually match them with $50 more million. And so I'm doing all that I can to make sure that I am fundraising for that across the whole state and across the whole nation, so that we have $100 million dedicated to this 40 by 40 block, where we have seen historical redlining, historical disinvestment. We're seeing the smallest tree canopy that we've ever seen, that we continue to see, which is in Deep East Oakland. And so those are some of the different things that we're doing. But we also launch Activate Oakland. For me, I think that it's incredibly important that we know our neighbors and get to activate the different streets. I know that the city does a bad job at getting out money to different organizations and businesses. So I'm partnering with Visit Oakland. The application just closed, but it's called Activate Oakland. And you, if you apply for it, you'll be able to get up to $10,000 to basically activate whatever you want to do, right? Whether it be a community event or a block party or what have you. And so that is something that we're doing to really inject the community with not only the funding it needs to actually break bread with each other and keep each other safe, but also really get young people to come out and find mentors in the community to cultivate that kind of support system.
That's awesome. I definitely took a note of the application for the money. I was thinking, what can we do here in Redwood Heights to really get folks out, get us back in the park, get us back in community, back together again. So I do appreciate that. Do check that out. I know from previously as our council member, as a member of the board, that affordable housing and senior housing is something that is very near and dear to you, Mayor Thao. Our city has a growing number of the homeless encampments. We've got them in industrial zones. We've got them along frontage roads, along the highways, and now they're moving into public parks and beyond. It is a large problem. We understand that it is multifaceted. So you see here in the questions, too large to be solved by one or two specific acts. And then we have seen the rise over the past 5 years. So I think what is the question, and the root of the question here is, what are we doing in terms of affordable housing? You mentioned earlier 29 million or 2.5. Am I right? No,
Over
209. It was a big number. $209 million going towards affordable housing, meeting the needs. And I just want to know more. I think the people here also want to know more about how that 209 is going to be spent, what we're going to see, and how it's going to help the people of Oakland.
Absolutely. So affordable housing has been very tricky in the past, in the sense that in order for it to quote unquote pencil out for developers, you have to braid all of these different grant opportunities, and so you will get state funding, but the city has to have matching funds to begin with. So with this over $200 million, what we'll be able to do is allow for projects that are already in the pipeline to really be actually be strategically, and not just strategically, but be strong candidates for those matching funds from the state and from the federal government. And so we do have our required number of housing here in the city of Oakland. It's a large number. It's like 28,000 units that we have to build out. But I am here to take on that challenge. And a part of it too is that we do need to build affordable housing, deeply affordable, including zero income housing, but also that missing middle as well too. And so that's going to be key. And so we're going to continue to build. Right now, it is very favorable to build affordable housing because all the supplies are so expensive that right now developers are really looking at affordable housing as a way of actually making making it work for development, whether it be here in the city of Oakland or anywhere else in California. When I was a council member, one of the first things I did was I really felt strongly that we should have some affordable housing above 580 as well too. And so I got to work, and if you go out to MacArthur and High Street, you'll see a building being built up right next to the freeway. That is my project that I worked on. We were able to build that up within my first year from start to finish in regards to negotiating the permits and really getting driving that project forward. That project will develop 197 units of workforce affordable housing units. We're talking about your teachers, you're talking about trainees to be firefighters or EMTs or what have you. And so this will be a great stock for many Oaklanders to be able to work and play in the city here in the town. And so really proud of that, and we're going to continue to do that work. Obviously, of course, we're going to find different ways of how we actually create the access to housing. So homeowners, we're going to incentivize the ability of putting ADUs out in your yards and then renting that out. Also working with the HUD federal program to really connect some of the subsidy and the vouchers to church properties, so that if we can get church properties to build out, then these vouchers can be tied to them. It only makes sense since churches, we know, offer a lot of resources to low-income families, including housing, clothing, and other things. And so working in partnership with our faith-based institution is going to also be key as we move forward to tackle this unhousing or this housing crisis.
Great, thank you so much. Okay, since we're running out of time, we're gonna do a valiant effort to try to combine the last two questions. And I think they really do kind of come down to quality of life in Oakland. So I'm just going to go through both of them. So the first one is, as soon as I make it, trash. You know, it's kind of horrifying sometimes driving around. And, you know, so part of it is like public works. What are we doing? Why is it not a priority? It's kind of embarrassing sometimes. So I want to say that. So the last question is about the quality of life, which is, you know, that is part of our quality of life is the trash. And then also is that, you know, what we're hearing time and time again is people aren't feeling safe. So, you know, we're seeing cherished businesses leaving because of crime, you know, the high property tax rates, which is county, we understand that. But then, you know, there's been question about leadership and then absence of police response. So a lot of the things we've already talked about. So, you know, it's in addition to what we've already talked about, is there anything else that's going to help us have a sense of safety in the city of Oakland?
Absolutely. You know, I think that, and you know, it's totally fair. You know, this question here is completely fair. The comment is completely fair. You know, there are high property tax rates. You know, we have a police chief that we are looking for, also our chief of Department of Violence Prevention. You know, so coming on board, we did inherit a lot of vacancies, and we have committed a strike team to fill these vacancies. So, for example, in Public Works, within 2 months, usually it takes about 6 to 9 months to hire anybody, but within 2 months, we were able to hire 40 people. And so what that means is that you'll start seeing services be delivered a little bit better. Of course, we're not going to stop there. We're going to continue to keep hiring. We have many vacancies in the city of Oakland. I know that the city administrator and I, we will be announcing that we will be actually taking into strong priority the cleanliness of the city. And so the city administrator and I have already, we're working on a strategy so that you'll start seeing that the city is going to get cleaned up, because it is the dirtiest that I've ever seen it, you know, for the past, however, 3 years now. And we must do something about it. A part of that too is that we want residents to really come out and take ownership. After we create a base for cleanliness in your community, like we really want the residents to come out and take initiative and take ownership. And we want to empower the community to help us keep this space clean. For example, once we clean the area, if you see an abandoned vehicle or what have you, we've moved the abandoned vehicle unit out of OPD into Department of Transportation. And so what that means is that we are allowing for officers to do police work, and then at the same time, the Department of Transportation can be more proactive in regards to getting these cars off the streets. And so you'll start seeing that come, you know, towards the end of this year and next year as well too. But that is absolutely at top of mind when we talk about illegal dumping. And remember, Supervisor Nate Miley is really interested in this too. And there are 2 topics that we're working on with the county, and that is illegal dumping, quality of life, and also our unhoused population, how to get people into actual shelter so that we don't have these tent encampments across the city. Of course, there's nuances to that, and we have to work with the state as well too. The sense of safety, you know, we are starting that work through Ceasefire. Again, working with technology that we stated previously as well. I believe that you'll start seeing a relief when it comes to the crimes that are happening throughout the city. Again, these crimes are also happening throughout the nation. You know, we're seeing that that crimes that are being created now look a lot different than previously. And so we are adjusting and changing things around so that we can keep up with the times. But I am very proud of our police department. Again, they are out there and they are more active than I have ever seen them. And so I just really want to say thank you so much to our police officers for doing the great work, because yes, it could be a very dangerous job. You know, property crimes nowadays, you know, like I tell the chief, it's like we have to treat them like they're not just property crimes, but dangerous property crimes, in the sense that many, if not all, of the people who are committing property crimes actually are carrying loaded guns. And so we want to definitely make sure that we get illegal guns off of the street and continue to work with the different interagencies, including with the feds, so that we can get those who are the most dangerous off of our streets. And Captain, if you want to chime in.
By all means.
I know we're running out of time. I just wanted to tell just one positive, tangible story. So we're currently clearing out Alameda Avenue from High Street over to Fruitvale, right behind Home Depot and the old glass factory. And Public Works had initially anticipated that this would take 2, 3, 4 weeks. But the mayor's office worked with the governor, got us a CHP detail. The Public Works people worked amazingly hard all week, last week, and cleared out a lot of debris, put down K-rails, did about 95% of it in 1 week. They're almost done. And the one thing I just want to highlight for everyone is that, you have these Public Works employees that are obviously overburdened, overtaxed, they're overworked, but they engaged with our unhoused community with such care and compassion, just taking the time to get to know them, to figure out, what can be thrown away, what was a cherished heirloom, and over and over and over. And with the help of OPD and the help of CHP, they felt safe and they were able to do their jobs really effectively, really efficiently. They're almost done. That whole corridor will be open to traffic again. If you have shopping to do at Home Depot, it'll be a much more pleasant experience. It's helping bring business into Oakland. The old glass factory that was completely shut down, and just this blighted properties, going to be developed by Prologis, which is a massive multinational corporation. So I just am proud of the Public Works people and the partnerships between the departments. And please, everyone on this call, I'm sure you're happy you weren't down there to see it, but just know that it went really well, and that you should be proud of the hard work that the city workers did down there. I just wanted to end on just a positive note.
And Kenan, if I could add one thing, absolutely. And what you heard there is just really departments working with each other and to ensure that, we have Oakland at the top of mind. That is our North Star. I did read in the chat, what are we doing to actually open up our economy, right? Getting new dollars instead of fighting for the same dollars that we always have. And so that is one of my priorities. And so you may have heard about the announcement from President Biden. He's invested over $7 billion into hydrogen. And so the city of Oakland is one of those recipients. I am so honored to have been able to work with the Oakland Port to really secure these funds. When I go to DC, look, I'm a person who I don't like to actually get on the airplane, but I will if it means that we have to get money for the city. And so I've been definitely working the Biden administration hard to get money for Oakland. And what you'll see is that we are vetted for a hydrogen hub here in the city of Oakland. So what that means new jobs. That means new money's coming in. That means less pollution, because we're going to get these big trucks, these dirty big trucks off of the road, and make sure that we have hydrogen fuel trucks on the road. More so than that, it's $109 million for port upgrades from the state. I went with a delegation and we worked our butts off, and we went to Vietnam, and I secured VietJet, which is an airline, to have a direct airline from Oakland Airport to Vietnam. More so than that, we were able to secure a MOU to transport Vietnam was transporting some of their goods to Long Beach. Well, we were able to take that contract and they're bringing it to Oakland now. And so really creating more monies for the city of Oakland is, I do see that as one of the jobs, the many jobs that I have, but it's about creating that new economy. And so we are doing a lot of work in regards to creating that economy. And that does mean building relationships and network with the Biden administration directly, and building that network with the governor's office. And just so that you all know, your mayor is hard at work doing creating those networks, and I've been very successful to bring back a lot of money in the first 9 months that we've been in office.
Thank you. Thank you. I want to, as we wrap up, it is time, and I want to thank both Mayor Sheng Thao and Captain Bassett for coming in and really taking the time to dive deep into our questions. I know, as I've been looking through the chat, and once again, thank you to all those who really kept the chat about getting answers, positive or negative. It's really about working together as a community to find out what it is we're doing, how we can do better, and how our city officials are working with us to make the change that we're asking for. So I want to thank all those who came into the meeting today, came to this town hall with that mindset, and it was definitely showcased in the chat. This entire meeting will be posted on our YouTube channel. That's at RHA Oakland. Any unanswered questions and all those questions in the chat, we will be organizing and distributing to the mayor and to the captain. And as we close, I just want to invite you all to come next month in November on the 15th to join us as we really talk about how we can work together as a community to bring about lasting change, with the assumption that no one else is going to help us right now. What can we do together? What is it that we can start to bring back? Those are, old methods that we use to keep our neighborhood safe. And really just what is it about the human connection that allows us to bring a level of not only safety, but community engagement to the work that we're all so passionate about and the community that we live in. So with that, I want to thank all of you for attending. I want to thank my amazing president and co-host, Carla, and definitely much love to Mayor Sheng Thao and Captain Bassett for joining us. And thank you all. We had a record number. Brandon in the background making it happen. That's right. Let me not forget.
Yes, thank you everybody for attending. We really, really appreciate it. I know there were some like these other additional questions that we just couldn't get to. But we will be following up, and we really appreciate everybody's support and being here. And thank you again.
That's right. Check us out, rhaoakland.com, info@rhaoakland.com. If you want to join us, we are volunteer led. We need all the support we can get. Have a wonderful evening.
All right. Good night.